very long and winding road. It is one that took me a long time to get to, and I think that I passed through everything else before I got to it. So I've spoke about carnivore on my social media, mainly on Instagram, but that's not a great platform to like really delve into anything. So I thought that this would be more useful. So I just wanted to use this video to kind of tell you how I got to the point in my life where I was ready to try carnivore. Such an extreme shift to what I had been doing for decades prior. So there was a point in time in my early or late teens, early 20s where I was extremely unhealthy. It's probably the only time in my life I can remember consistently drinking soda, consistently eating fast food. And you could tell. For reference, I am under 5 feet tall, so I'm 4'11", and I'm not one of those people that weighs myself a lot, so I really cannot even put a number on how much I weighed at that point, but I would say it was close to 160 pounds. For a lot of people, they're like, oh, that's not that bad, but for somebody that's under 5 feet tall, it's not great. And I think I was very young at that point, so I was trying to think back about this, I can't really say that I had any huge health problems at that point, because I was 19, 20, 21 years old. So I also was drinking a lot. I moved away for college, so I was just like doing my own thing. So I made a really extreme shift. I don't remember my age, but I think I was probably between 20 and 21 years old. And I found the vegan diet, and I read some books, and I'm trying to think, like, was Instagram around at that point? I'm not really sure. It wasn't what it is today where I could have learned a bunch from it. So I would say I mainly read books, maybe some like blog posts, and I decided, all right, I'm gonna be a vegan. And it was extremely successful for me. I think mainly because it was such a drastic change to the way that I was eating. So I was eating fast food. I was eating a lot of processed food. I was drinking a lot. I was drinking soda. So I think that just that massive shift was very successful for me. And I lost a lot of weight. At one point I weighed 98 pounds. And for a lot of you, you will say, wow, that's way too skinny. At 4 feet 11 inches, it's thin, but it's not crazy. So I never went to veganism from an animal standpoint. It was never because I didn't want to harm an animal. That was never really my purpose for doing it. It was for a health reason. And then I was pregnant with my son, and I was like, man, I remember telling my husband, I really want a charcoaled hamburger, like one that tastes like it was made on a charcoal grill. And he was like flabbergasted by that, because the entire time we had known each other, I was always a vegan. And he was the polar opposite. He is an outdoorsman. He hunts, he fishes. So we were oil and water. So I kind of leaned into eating meat while I was pregnant. And then after I had my son, I didn't go back to being a vegan. I stayed eating meat, but it was mainly like chicken, turkey, and still prioritized vegetables. I was one for like all the green smoothies, avocado, kales, cucumbers, had to have a smoothie every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter, the pregnancy for her was a lot harder on my body. I did not know that I was having a girl. We did not find out with her. So I do think that there's like a fight of hormones when you're pregnant with a girl. And I think that showed a lot. So I just struggled a little more with her. I would say that I gained more weight. Again, I never was one to weigh myself, so I can't say that for sure, but just looking back at pictures, I was much puffier with her. I always told my husband, like, my nose was gigantic when I was pregnant with her. Like the last couple weeks, it was like it was my entire face. Just very inflamed with her. And then after I had her, I just could not shake the weight that I gained from her, no matter what I did to change it. And I just kind of progressively was having all these health things pop up. So I turned 30 about 2 weeks after I had her. So I'm much older now, and this weight started to have effects on me where I couldn't just like shake it off like I was when I was 21 years old. So I tried everything. I have always been one to stay pretty physically active, and I was still physically active. I did a lot of beach bodies eating programs, which have been extremely successful for a lot of people. There she is. Speak of the devil. Oh, that's beautiful. I counted my macros. I had my Fitness Pal, and I ate in a calorie deficit. I did the Wild Fit program at one point for it's a long program. I've done it multiple times. I went back to veganism. I've done a Whole30. I've done paleo. Like, I've done it all, I feel like. And I can probably count on one hand the pounds that I had lost on all of those programs combined. I would lose ounces, right? To where then when I drank a glass of water, it was all back. There was nothing significant. And then within that weight, I also started getting some of these health problems, nothing severe. I was not a pre-diabetic, which is, you'll hear a lot of people talk about that if you start looking into carnivore, that they were pre-diabetic and that's why they started. I had nothing like that. I had actually had my blood work tested at one point because I just felt so not good. A lot of highs and a lot of lows emotionally, very tired all the time, very moody. A lot of it was mood oriented. My skin just kind of like erupted. It wasn't even like acne. I almost described it as a rash. And it was basically all over my face. And I had blood work done. It obviously came back completely fine and normal and healthy. And I just kind of lived like that, trying to topically treat the skin, just kind of going on these periods of time where I'm like, okay, I'm going to count my macros. And I would, that's exhausting. I don't know if you've ever done it. It's a very exhausting thing to do. So I would count my macros for a couple good solid 2 weeks, and then I would be done. And then I would eat in a calorie deficit for, 10 days, and then I couldn't maintain that.
Mama, look at my necklace.
Good job. It's also difficult doing these types of things with small children, and a husband, right? So like I'm the food preparer, I'm the grocery shopper. So I have to keep them in mind when I'm doing stuff like this. And sometimes that's difficult to do, right? Because it's just easier to throw these quick meals on the table and be done with it than like I'm counting my macro meal and then I'm feeding my family something else. And that's a really difficult and time consuming thing to do. I should note that after my short stint in my early teens and late teens and early 20s, I do not drink soda. I grew up never being allowed to drink soda. Thanks, Mom. And from my veganism forward, so like 22 on, I was, mainly organic food, a lot of gluten-free stuff, which we all think is so healthy, dairy-free, all the free things. So I wasn't eating processed food. And even, as the sole cook for my family, I was cooking everything from scratch. We were not eating processed food, frozen meals, anything like that. But the weight, it was still there, and it was getting worse. So I would creep up and creep up and creep up. And I would say at my heaviest, at that point, I was probably around 153 pounds. Again, it doesn't seem like an astronomical amount of weight, like 153 pounds, but at 4'11", it is a lot of weight. It's a lot of stress on my body. I wore a size 8, not comfortably. Probably should have worn a size 10, but refused to go there. So I just kind of was like dealing with this and just living, and was like, okay, this is just what it's like to be in your 30s as a mom of 2 to young children. My husband is a business owner, and like the stressors of life, and this is just what it's like. And I always knew in the back of my head that really shouldn't be, right? You shouldn't live your life like, I guess this is as good as it gets. So right before my 34th birthday, I hurt my back bad. I have never had a back injury. I've really never had a lot of injuries, period. And I was a high school athlete. I don't even know what it was initially that was hurt, but it ended up being into like herniated disc territory. And I had months and months where I was just in excruciating pain for so long that when my daughter made me her Mother's Day craft at preschool, they asked her, what's your mom's favorite thing to do? And she said, ice her back. So it was a lifestyle at that point. And I would get these panicked moments, and I would tell my husband, I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. This is it. I couldn't walk. I could not grocery shop without being in excruciating pain when I got back to the car. I could not carry laundry upstairs. I could not bend down to clean our bathtubs. It was just very life-altering for me. I was, still exercising at this point. I was going to the gym every day. I had started running a little bit, and then I was done. There was nothing I could do about it. And, I was going to the chiropractor, and she was helping me, but nothing would hold. So she would adjust me, and I would feel really good. And then within 48 hours, sometimes I'd get 4 days out of it, and then I would be right back. So I was just low at that point. And my husband came to me, and he just randomly, he is not one to do any diet or eating plan or anything, whatever you want to call it. That is not him. He's just going to eat what he wants to eat, and that is who he is. So he actually came to me, and he was like, I think I'm going to do the carnivore diet. And I was like, you cannot do that. I have 75 green powders in our pantry and superfoods and all those things, and you cannot do the carnivore diet. What do you eat? And I was talking back and forth, and he was like, you just have to look into it for yourself. I'm not going to explain it to you. I've been watching these people, and you should look at it. So Homestead How was one of the first ones that I watched. And I remember watching his video, and it was his, 30-day check-in maybe. He had been doing it for 30 days or something. And I remember him saying that from the first night he started, he didn't snore. And I was like, no, that's not true. I was such a skeptic, and I was like, that's not true. From eating hamburgers, can't be true. So, I kept researching, and I kept looking, and I was like, some of this stuff, it kind of makes sense. I was familiar with the idea of an elimination diet, and I heard someone, and I cannot remember who, say that carnivore, it may have been Jordan Peterson, but carnivore is the ultimate elimination diet. You take everything away, and then you can kind of determine what's bothering you and what's not bothering you. So after a few days, I was like, okay, let's try it. Like, I've tried everything else. Nothing's ever worked for me. So like, this isn't going to work either. So let's give her, you know, a week, 10 days and see what happens. And the other thing, you know, when you hear these people who have been on carnivore for, you know, months, years, weeks, whatever it is, a lot of them had really quick results. They're like, I had this list of health problems and like 10 days later I was here, whether it be off of medications and all that stuff. So I was not. I am like, there's no shortcuts, right? So like, you're in it for the long haul. It would take me, you know, weeks and weeks and weeks to maybe lose a pound. So I was total skeptic, but what the heck? I've tried everything else. I might as well give this sucker a try too. So, you know, I start getting everything ready and I do day 1 and I'm like, nope, not doing it. Like, I just felt very nauseous. I was good throughout the whole day. And then it was after dinner, I just felt like extremely nauseous. And I was like, I can't do this. Not doing it. So I went to a bridal shower the next day and just ate normal there. And then the following day, I kind of like thought about it and I was like barely able to sit in the car home from the bridal shower because my back hurt so bad. And I was like, we're just going to try it. Okay. Like, you're going to be okay. You know, you're making a huge lifestyle change. There could be some like not so pleasant things that happen in that beginning stage. I gave it another shot. So I'm on day 2. My husband's several days, he's a few days ahead of me. I think he actually started a couple days before me, but I will tell you, the night that he started, the day he started, and then we went to sleep. And right before we went to sleep, he was like, you think I'm gonna snore tonight? And I was like, yeah, I do. Like, that's insane. That couldn't have happened. And I swear, and you may not believe me, he did not. And he has not. I can always tell, like, he's very fluid with what he calls carnivore. So like, if he wants to eat something, he'll still eat it. But I would say he spends about 70% of his time doing a fairly good job. And it's a noticeable difference as soon as he eats something that like is not on carnivore, then he kind of, you know, veers off and he'll snore a little bit more, but nothing like what we were dealing with prior. He was also somebody that had, his head was just like full every morning. Just full, where it was like he was getting over a cold, but he was just like that every morning, and then it would just kind of go away. And he does not struggle with that anymore either. So, and he saw those results. The snoring was immediate, and the head probably cleared up, I would say, within like 5 to 7 days. So, you know, I went into carnivore thinking like, I'm gonna give it a few days. I gave up after 24 hours, and then I restarted. And I just kind of went with it, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to do this until I don't feel good. But that time has never come for me that I don't feel good. So I'm 4 months in. I'll be 5 months in at the beginning of October. And that time has never come for me. I just feel progressively better. And I have things that are just getting better and better every single day. So I don't really have like a timeline, like I'm gonna do carnivore for 90 days, or I'm gonna do carnivore for 6 months. I never went into it with that timeline. I just thought I'm gonna do it until I don't feel good. And I've just kind of stayed on it. And at this point, I don't really have a desire to go off. I don't really have a desire to like eat a bunch of bread. I don't really have the desire to eat a head of broccoli. I don't really have a desire to, you know, eat anything like that. It just kind of has stayed And I think just realizing the potential of like, this is how I can live my life instead of just in constant pain with a rash all over my face and brittle hair and brittle nails and overweight, and tired all the time and not being able to sleep, anxious, probably semi-depressed at moments. And like, I don't have to live like that. And I think just realizing that, just kind of like, you're just like, whatever, the broccoli isn't worth it. And I know that, you know, I obviously came from a place where vegetables were everything. And at a lot of points in my life, they were. Now I eat mostly beef. We have chicken on occasion, we have pork on occasion, but we mainly eat beef. I mentioned that my husband does hunt, so we do eat elk, and then probably at some points in the year, venison. And that's where we're at, and that's how I got here. And I still have a few places on my face that will flare up. I do not have a rash any longer, and haven't for quite some time. I have no back problems. I'm able to exercise regularly like I want to. I sleep phenomenally. I wake up very easily. I am so mentally there in my life that that alone makes it totally worth it. I want to do this and make these videos and share my story to show you that you know, anybody can do it. It sounds extreme and everybody in your life will think that you're absolutely insane. I just encourage you, do your own research. You know, if you're somebody that wants like the science behind everything, Dr. Anthony Chafee is a great resource. Dr. Kiltz, Paul Saladino. I mentioned Homestead How. He actually interviews a lot of these people, and you can listen to those and watch those on his YouTube channel. I'm not going to try and give you any science behind the carnivore diet because that's not my expertise. I just want to share from a stay-at-home mom of 2 that this is 100% doable and it's 100% worth trying if you need a drastic change in your life. All right, I'm going to try and share more of my story and maybe more of the specifics, and then hopefully get into like doing some grocery shops with me and like tips on keeping carnivore a little more budget friendly, because that is a huge concern for a lot of people. So I hope you stick around and check back for more, and I hope that you join me on the carnivore journey, or at least watch mine and maybe be inspired to try for yourself.